Hey, it's Riley with Project Outcast. Today we're looking into something darker about WFM zombies. Well, the zombie syndrome to be precise. But don't fear, because today we'll cover how to identify and remedy this in your WFM team. Let's dive right in. Step 1. Identifying patient zero. Managing a WFM team is incredibly complex and often misunderstood as being the same as managing a regular ops team. However, given the full scope of the WFM function, it should be run as a business. When managed the same as regular ops team, there's a good chance that the team can develop similar behavioral challenges that contact center teams face. In WFM, almost every action or step that needs to be taken to get to the final result goes unseen by the end user. And let's think about that for a second. Consider an app on your phone. You click it and it opens. You press on some of the options and immediately get a response, and so on. In reality, to build that app and for the coding to seamlessly switch through the options you've clicked on and remember your previous selections takes a good deal of design and programming which sits in the background. The same is true for the back end of WFM, with numerous input variables, multiple output scenarios, and in some cases, countless simulation runs. It is complex. This is why it's so important to identify that possible patient zero in your team, who will find a way to zombie mode your WFM process. What do I mean by that? Well, a zombie is a reanimated corpse which was dead but is now undead. The keywords here are undead and reanimated. What happens when your WFM team's plan becomes a reanimation of something that once was? What happens when the initial absolute brilliance of a plan that you've spent hours on, running simulations and scenarios, slowly deteriorates, decomposes, and becomes just a copy and paste of what was? This is an undead version of your plan, reanimated to be reused, which often looks like a fully completed plan. Has all the components of a fully completed plan, but somehow just isn't fitting well on the day. Just like a zombie that looks human and has all the basic human elements, but is just a corpse that was infected and rots from the inside. A WFM plan that has been zombified because it was the easier, lazier way of doing things starts infecting your contact center, eating away at the efficiencies it was supposed to create. This zombified plan ends up disrupting the contact center performance, creates tension between ops and WFM, and overall just slowly eats away at the efficiency, rotting the plan from the inside. Mismatched schedules, incorrect FTE allocations, skewed arrival patterns, constant corrections to the plan filling up your day with admin work are all signs of infection. We need to stop treating the symptoms and get to the root cause. Chances are there will be a so-called patient zero in the WFM team that finds a loophole in the system to exploit, and they create these inefficient copies of the plan, what I refer to as zombie mode. It's when both the art and science of WFM is replaced by a string of mindless copy and paste commands. When this is done with the intent to push the work out in the least amount of time, well, that's your patient zero. And that's the one that can ultimately lead to the downfall of the entire team. So, how do we identify a patient zero? Look out for the small mistakes. Rotational rosters being a day out of sync. Previously approved leave days on the system getting overwritten by a schedule. Development time loaded on the schedule incorrectly. Forecasted volumes and FTE requirements showing up outside operating hours or on holidays when the contact center is closed. Agents scheduled for a Saturday workday, bang in the middle of 2 weeks of annual leave. The volumes peak a week early or late compared to the plan. The volumes for the month might be within variance, but they're scattered throughout the month, causing inconsistencies in the day. These are some examples of a WFM plan being copied over to future dates and passed off as the current plan. Step 2. Creating the cure. We should have realized by now that this episode is focused on WFM leadership and management, and yes, it requires both. Let's clear up the definition of management. It's not a level of power over others. It's not a license to delegate work. It's not a badge that shields one from the hands-on work. Management is the process of working with and through others to achieve organizations' objectives in a changing environment. Central to this process is the effective and efficient use of resources. This actual textbook definition of management has a very strong resemblance to the core function of WFM, effective and efficient use of resources, and points out a key fact: that for a WFM manager, the WFM work doesn't stop at the contact center. It means that your WFM skill must also be applied to your WFM team. Now for the loop, if your WFM team has experienced zombie mode in some way or another, it usually means the team has adopted some of the typical negative behaviors or shortcuts that's commonly seen in the contact center. The best example to use is call avoidance, which is a behavioral challenge in the contact center where staff avoid the work. Similarly, going zombie mode on the WFM plan is when the WFM resource is avoiding the necessary due diligence in creating the plan. We've all heard the phrase, prevention is better than cure. But sometimes, if you're new to the role or have inherited a team, you may need to create a cure that you can use to fix the current situation or prevent a future situation. By understanding some of the basic business management textbook principles and combining them with our knowledge of WFM concepts, we can set off in creating a cure for the zombie syndrome in our WFM department. The two most common identifiers would be a willingness issue or a competency issue. Now, before diving headfirst into a cure, it's best to first observe and determine if it is either a willingness or competency issue, as that will help you understand how to go about in creating a solution. Willingness issues. Trying to resolve a willingness issue requires a well-thought-out approach that aims to connect with the employee to identify and understand any underlying issues that could be causing them to intentionally take shortcuts. This starts with communication, and usually an informal one-on-one session could open up the conversation, create a safe space, and lead the conversation toward a job fit analysis to determine if the role aligns to the employee's skills, interests, and career path. Situations and circumstances change, and if the pandemic of 2020 has taught us anything, it's that a lot can change in a very short space of time. Clarifying the role can also lead to the employee having a better understanding of what's expected, which makes implementing SMART goals to correct the behavior a more comfortable and inclusive approach to the problem. Management theory comprises of 6 schools of thought, but the foundational concept of management theory is to provide a base to understand everyday situations, helps us communicate with others, helps us find out more about the world we live and work in. People join an organization with expectations for their performance, such as salary, growth, status, etc. It is essential to balance the needs of your people and the organization. Competency issues. In the case of a competency issue, the best course of action will, of course, be training and development. However, it is vital that the job fit analysis is also done to ensure that the employee is capable of fulfilling the function. In Corey's experience, he has seen many cases whereby new employees in the team were taught how to use the system by the more tenured team members, which led to those shortcuts being passed on and considered to be the normal approach. Resolving a competency issue requires a more technical approach to assess and identify the skills gap with a large focus on mentorship and coaching. Considering the nature of WFM, the most effective training method is an on-the-job or shadow approach. Assigning smaller projects to the employee creates a practical setting that will help the employee train and apply the skills that are being taught. Development plans work great, but the most effective teaching method in WFM is peer support and collaboration. Consider segmenting tasks between peer groups in the team, whereby you can train the skill to the group collectively in a controlled setting. Corey always refers to the continuous improvement cycle process because it works, and for whichever reason, willingness or competency, implementing the cure will require a strong continuous improvement cycle focus to ensure its effectiveness. WFM Leadership Style. While each WFM manager has their own unique style, such as democratic, persuasive, or bureaucratic, and so on, these leadership styles should be grounded by business management principles to be successful. The 4 fundamental tasks of management are planning, organizing, leading, controlling. Planning in the management sense is creating strategies, policies, procedures, and methods, which is then followed by organizing, which focuses on the distribution and flow of work as well as accountable persons. Leading a team revolves around motivation, reward, recognition, bonuses, and promotion. It's in this step of the fundamentals of management where your leadership style needs to stand out. The 3 distinct character traits that a WFM manager should be able to switch between are interpersonal, informational, decisional, interpersonal. As a WFM leader, you need to have the ability to convey authority, trust, support, the ability to manage those above and below you in the hierarchy, and do this in face-to-face settings. Now, I'm not saying go out there and throw your title around. I'm saying the opposite. Being a leader in a management role requires you to have the interpersonal skills to guide and give instruction, respectfully but with authority. Informational. With this trait, you should consider yourself as the nerve center for your team, the central spokesperson and disseminator for the people you lead. As a WFM leader, you should have the information available that directs the flow of work and aligns to the goals of the business. In this case, the manager and you should already have or be able to obtain information that the team needs in order to function. And the leader in you should be skilled enough to disperse that information to the right people in the right way, with context, to enable the team to reach the desired output. Decisional. This trait requires the leader to be the resource allocator for the team, the negotiator, the conflict handler, the decision maker. Management functions that run the department must be deployed using a leadership style that will enable a decision to be made and the team to continue operating effectively. Now, how you lead the team through the maze of the workload that was defined by the business goals, and how you identify the right people to be accountable for those tasks using the 3 aforementioned traits will allow you to wrap all these up into a career path for your team. Managing the traction for these career paths are the following enablers: bonuses or incentives, which forms part of recognition. Validating the employee's achievement from a senior position boosts morale and motivation. Promotions, work enrichment over work enlargement. Refining role fits. Growing the right skills for the right person at the right time to accomplish the right things. If we had to visualize this flow, it's clear that starting a training or development session with SMART goals or a SWOT analysis is like taking a shot in the dark. But when the management flow is done right, and with the leadership engagement that's activated only at step 3, it now creates a very different platform that's already aligned to the business goals. Lastly, after the leadership step on the fundamentals is the control step. This is a very simple but crucial part of the fundamental management flow, which focuses on measuring results, targets, and key performance indicators. Step 3. Preventing another outbreak. What are some ways to prevent this from happening or happening again? Most solutions are the commonly used methods in the management toolkit, but the most important one is consistency. As a manager, you need to ensure that your staff are enabled and equipped to complete the tasks assigned to them. But as a leader, you must ensure your staff share the same vision in achieving the goals of your department. A healthy working environment will certainly mitigate zombie mode risks, and some focus areas to consider in today's workforce are work-life balance. flexible working hours, hybrid work options, team collaboration projects, access to new technology and tools, external programs such as seminars or workshops, role adjustments to refine and better align job roles, incentive programs, wellness programs. While these are just some examples of ways to improve the team dynamics, not all of them may be effective for your specific team considering the age group, different WFM roles, team size, and so on. Working toward building a team that works well together, that has open and transparent communication, will take time and patience. The leadership role is a step within management fundamentals and is a very important step. Without leadership, all you're left with is just the other management functions. And those are mainly planning and controlling, which by itself is rather straightforward and routine, robotic in a sense. A WFM leader, therefore, has a dual focus, whereby they are responsible for managing and leading the team, but doing so with the same concepts and principles that they advocate for in the contact center that drives the efficient use of resources. Preventing a zombie mode situation means focusing on creating a healthy working environment by being an actively engaged leader. Let's go out there and prevent a possible zombie outbreak in our WFM teams. Until next time, remember, be yourself, grow your skills, and do things the Outcast way.